Today I'm going to talk to you about how to set up the rear end of your KMD FR01 chassis. So the first thing you want to do is select your wheelbase length. So here I have both cars set up. The one in the front here is set up in our 130 millimeter wheelbase, and the one back here is 134 millimeters. So this one is the longer one, while this one here is the shorter wheelbase. It's very important that you use the correct T-plate adapter when setting up your wheelbase lengths. For the 130 millimeter setup, or the shorter setup, you'll notice that the T-plate holder is different from the 134 millimeter T-plate setup. So this adapter, as you notice, should always be sitting flush with the chassis right here. So if you're going to go to a longer wheelbase, you can't use this T-plate adapter. You have to use the other one that comes in the kit. And you'll notice right away that this one has that extra space right there. So with that little extra space, it's still sitting or resting against the chassis. That's really important for strength and stability. So make sure that you're using the correct T-plate holder. So this is the longer wheelbase setup. Of course, the longer wheelbase setup will be better for higher speed tracks, a little bit more open racing, while the shorter wheelbase will be better for tighter, smaller tracks. So this is the setup I'm using right now to compete on the 128 Racing online competition. So when selecting T-plates for the KMD FR01 chassis, you have many options. So because it's based on an MRO 3, pretty much anything that fits on an MRO 3 will also be able to be used here for the KMD FR01. If you don't know about our high-speed stability kit, this is it. The purpose of the high-speed stability kit is to strengthen the lateral flexion of the rear motor mount, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for the motor mount to move from side to side, but still allows the up and downward damping to be nice and soft. So this allows you to have good contact with the ground to absorb the bumps, but at the same time stiffens up the chassis to prevent body roll in corners. The F1 tires are much wider than an MRO 3 tire, so of course they provide more lateral grip. And with more lateral grip, you normally get more body roll. So this little kit here will help prevent the chassis from rolling too much in the corner. Also, of course, don't need to use that kit. You can use a regular T-plate, but it does move the motor mount a lot more left to right. So you're probably going to have to use a pretty stiff T-plate in that case. So this is a Kyosho medium, but I would probably suggest even going to a Kyosho firm without a high-speed stability kit. So I do have a tip for anybody who's having trouble getting the correct spacing between their pinion and the spur gear. If you're having a hard time, so you want to move to a larger pinion, but the engine just can't fit for whatever reason, you can't get the meshing, then what normally is the problem is that the screw that is being used to hold your post is actually causing the engine, or the engine is hitting that screw on the bottom here underneath. And in order to fix that, you simply just need to use a long threaded set screw. So this is a 6 millimeter long set screw, and you would just push that up through here, twist it into the motor mount, and once you have it all the way up and in, this is pretty much what PN does on their metal MRO 3 motor mount. You're going to have that thread right there where you can attach your post. And when you do that, you're going to have more room for your engine to move back and forth. So here, this is what it looks like with the engine installed and your disc damper post installed. So that's one of the simple things that you can do to get more pinion spacing. When it comes to ride height, or rear ride height in the KMD FR01 chassis, then usually the lower it is to the ground, the better the handling will be. So as you can see here, I have this orange insert. It's from MC3. It's pretty much a #1 PN insert, but flipped upside down. So that makes the rear of the chassis or rear of the car much lower to the ground. So if you're having a hard time getting enough rear traction, then you probably want to lower the rear end using the correct spacer. For the disc damper system, what I have here is, of course, my Kyosho oil-filled shock. I just simply use the oil that is supplied in the kit from Kyosho. And then I have a PN disc damper system. Most people don't set up their disc damper systems the way that I do, so I actually reverse the plates so that the plate holding the oil shock is below the actual disc damper plate itself. I've just found that with the disc damper plate a little bit higher, it provides a little bit more stability in the corners. For the springs for the disc damper, I'm using a gold spring on the bottom and a blue spring on the top. And of course I've sanded the disc damper plate as well as the discs themselves using 1000 grit sandpaper. For the gear ratios, if you're going to be competing in the 128 online racing series, then you do need to use this PN 5500 kV engine. The engine has a lot of acceleration, a lot of pickup, but not very much top speed. So you want to gear it at a lower gear ratio, meaning that it's made for higher speed, lower pickup. So right now I'm using the 126 pitch, and I use that because it has less friction than the 128 pitch instead of the 64 pitch. Because it has a less friction, and basically my gear ratio is something around where a 12 pinion to 53 tooth spur gear would be in 64 pitch. Of course, if you want to be fast, you're going to need a good pair of tires. So these are the 10 degree Marca rear tires, F1 tires. And it's very important that you mount them correctly, and once you finish mounting them, you've trued them. So in order to mount them, I taped the inside of the rim, and then I glued the tire to the rim on each edge, so the outside edge as well as the inside of the rim. And that secures the tire to the rim very well and provides you the most amount of traction. Once I did that, I also trued the tires to make sure that they're running nice and round, and that will prevent any kind of vibrations that you would normally get in the rear. Of course, if your tires are untrue and you're getting a lot of vibrations, the rear of the car won't be as planted as it should be, and you're probably going to have issues with traction rolling or oversteer. So one last thing that you can do if you want to get the maximum amount of power from your engine is to make sure that you have installed gold-plated contacts into your chassis and have soldered all of your wires using silicone wire. That's just going to provide you with the most amount of power and the most efficient use of the battery power. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more info on front end tuning.